I think the main thing is we still have surpassed that. So I think we just,
iPad
okay.
Pro.
I think we just, so,
Okay.
Not sure.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Happy birthday, everybody. I think it's kind of nice that we all have a birthday on the same day.
that is.
First order of business this morning is the approval of the minutes. You've all received a copy of the minutes from our previous meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted, Ryan?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I've been called a lot of things, Ryan, that's okay.
Sure.
Is there a second?
It's going to have to be.
I'll second it. Any discussion, corrections, additions, subtractions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the chair's report. Well, this is a lovely day in Potsdam, despite what you might see going on outside the window. And I think we all need to be congratulated. I think we all look pretty well for being 200 years old today. And for those of you that may be watching this broadcast from afar, we haven't taken leave of our senses. This is the 200th anniversary of the founding of SUNY Potsdam, which at the time was St. Lawrence Academy. 'Tis the day 200 years ago that the regents saw in their infinite wisdom to sign the charter creating St. Lawrence Academy, which today we now know and love as SUNY Potsdam, one of the first 50 colleges, and Alex is shaking her head no.
First 40, yeah.
Oh, first 40 colleges, excuse me. And the oldest member of the entire state university system, including all 62 campuses and community colleges. So we are in a celebratory mood today. Students are back, everything is moving along. The students recently represented us well in Albany, and I'm not going to steal the president's thunder because she will be talking about the travels far and wide during her report this morning. And we owe her a special debt of gratitude for being here this morning, despite having returned from that other place called Washington, D.C. in the wee hours of the morning. So we might be suffering from a little bit of D.C. lag. It's in a different time zone, as we all know. I was heard it described as, I'm not sure if this is exact, but 42 square miles bounded by reality. So it is an interesting time. It is a religious weekend for some of us, and it is a great weekend for all of us, past, present, and future Potsdam people. This is a wonderful family to belong to. This is also budget time, so while everyone is celebrating, we're also keeping a so-called weather eye on Albany, not to see if it will snow, but to see what will come down from the budget when it is finally adopted. You all know the governor's constitutional responsibility is to present a budget, and then it is the legislature's responsibility to do what the legislature does. And in the end, we come out with, hopefully, an on-time budget once again. So we appreciate all the work that everybody's done, and I also wanted to point out that today, March 25th, aside from being the 200th birthday of SUNY Potsdam, marks another auspicious occasion that occurred here on this campus. Don't worry, it's not alive. I'm taking something out of the bag, and the president looked a little nervous because she knows me. So as luck would have it, 30 years ago today, Governor Mario Cuomo, was here on campus to declare this SUNY Potsdam Bears Day in the state of New York. On March 25th, 1986, He came here, we had a giant pep rally in the gym, and he came here to celebrate the Potsdam Bears men's basketball team being, at that point in time, the only undefeated college team in the nation. And in celebration of that, Jerry Welch, who was the coach, and the team presented the governor with a national championship ring. And their record is on here, 32-0, and there's his name and the national champions and the year. This sat proudly on his desk in Albany for many years, and on the last day of his tenure as governor, he sent this over to me in my office in Albany. They all look alike. And said that he thought I would like to have it. I had it on loan to the college for quite a while, but I thought some of you might enjoy seeing it because it's another day in history for SUNY Potsdam, and we'll start with the president. And in case you wonder why that's cloudy, he gave it to me on December 30th. And I drove back from Albany, left it in the car overnight, and whatever the stuff is that's inside that glass froze. So if anybody knows where I can get that replaced, feel free to let me know, because I'd like to get it fixed and restored to its natural grandeur. Okay, so that's my history lesson for the Potsdam Bicentennial. And I will now,
Yeah, we have, because
Oh.
he has to go.
okay,
He had a commitment that he has to get to. so-
okay. The Associate Professor and Coordinator of Choral Programs at Crane, Jeffrey Frank Holm, is going to talk to us about, did I say your last name right?
Yes, fine, yeah. I thank you for having me here today, and sorry for cutting in line.
That's
in the
okay.
class this morning. I brought with me L.B. Wendelin, who is a junior in music business, and she's serving as the tour manager for this trip. So I was asked to come and tell you a little bit about what Crane Chorus, Crane Symphony Orchestra are doing this semester. 6 years ago, when Dean Sitton arrived, shortly after, we received a couple of alumni came forward, Dorothy Gregory and Gary Jakeway, and created these opportunities for us to restore a tradition that has been around for many years. Ever since 1932, Helen Hosmer has been bringing guest conductors in, including Aaron Copeland and Nadia Boulanger and other very famous conductors, to come and work with the choirs and orchestra here on campus. And so as of 6 years ago, actually 2011 was the first, we were able to start bringing in these guest conductors again. And then with Gary Jakeway's gift, we're able to take the choirs. This year, 280 choir and orchestra, 280 musicians from Crane will be going, from SUNY Potsdam, not all of them Crane students, will be going to perform at Carnegie Hall on May 8th, Mother's Day. 8:30 p.m. is the concert. And so we are thrilled about that. And the guest conductor this year is Dwayne Wolf, from the Chicago Symphony Chorus. And he is so vested in this program that he's already been here once to work with the choirs and to meet with our orchestra conductor as well. So this is a very exciting program. And these program repertoire, one of the pieces, Von Williams Serenade to Music, will have 15 soloists, student soloists. So this will be their debut as soloists on the stage of Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
So what an opportunity for them, and this will forever be a cherished moment. And so I've asked LB just to talk a little bit about the agenda, what we'll be doing while we're down there, when we're departing and all that.
Okay, so on Saturday the 7th, we are getting on a bus at 8 a.m., all 280 of us, and we will be driving down to New York City, and then we're getting there at around 6 p.m., and the Crane Chorus officers and I have been researching things that the students can do while we're in the city, educational things, entertainment things, so we've come up with a couple of tours, museums. The Metropolitan Opera is showing Elektra, so some of the students are interested in that. We're looking at Lincoln Center and Avery Fisher Hall and some musicals, so we're all going to be out and about in the city seeing some cool stuff. And then on Sunday, we are getting back on the bus at 4:30, getting to the hall, performing at 8:30, and then going back to our hotel, maybe spending some time in the city. To be determined about that. And then the next day we're getting back on the bus and we're coming back here. So we're all very excited, and I just finished the rooming list, so we're doing good.
So we're thrilled, the students are thrilled, everybody's excited, and thank you for your support, and for, we need to thank our alumni, of course, for their support and everything there. Do you have any questions?
Sounds
How
like
do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Well, 7
practice,
months.
practice, practice.
You're welcome.
I was gonna say buses.
I was-
You're not as old as I am.
Yeah.
But if I might say, I am so proud of the Crane Chorus and the Symphony Orchestra. Everywhere I went in Albany and in DC, I was able to brag and say, our students are performing at Carnegie Hall, and just the extraordinary reception of our really talented students has been just wonderful. So I can't wait for that concert, and know you're going to do an amazing job.
It's a good one. You know, there's one very important aspect I left out, and I forgot to mention, that we have commissioned, the university has commissioned a work to celebrate our 200th anniversary. The composer is Gary Fry, and it is an incredible work based on a text that was written exactly 200 years ago. And there's a lot of symbolism in this work as well of the original colonies and everything. And so it's marvelous work written by Gary Fry, commissioned by the university for the university. So it's very exciting, very exciting.
Is that on that program?
Yeah, it is.
It is,
Yeah,
wonderful.
it'll be on the program. And the program will be performed first here at Hosmer Hall, and then down at Carnegie Hall a week later.
When over here?
The Saturday evening, April 30th. 7:30.
And you need tickets for that.
Oh, and if you need
They're
tickets
free.
for Carnegie Hall, I brought some with me. Does anybody want some tickets right now to go to Carnegie Hall? And if not, I can always get them to you later.
I
You will, how many? Well, talk to me later.
No scalping, please.
Yeah, let's
Yeah, really.
I've got a big family.
Oh, good, yes, talk to me later. All right,
Well,
thank
it
you.
sounds like you've got everything under control, and it'll be an exciting time for everybody. And I feel a special connection to Crane Chorus, because I was once upon a time part of the Crane Chorus. And Gary Jaquay was in my class.
Oh.
And I actually sang with the Crane Chorus when Nadia Boulanger was a conductor one year. So it's wonderful to hear, and it's exceptional to be part of.
So, you know, one of the works we're performing is the Fauré Requiem,
Yeah.
which has a long history here at Crane. It was Helen Hosmer's favorite piece. So they used to sing it here every year from 1932 till, you know, I don't know when, but they sang it at least informally every year. It was a big deal. So
Okay, well, have a great trip,
thank you very much.
and we know you'll do us proud.
Well, we hope so.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.
Make sure the bus doesn't leave without mine. Okay, the president's report.
Well, you can tell that I've been doing a little bit of traveling, but before I talk about that, I would like to introduce our brand new provost, Betty Bergeron. We are thrilled that Betty's here, and you'll be hearing from her a little bit later. We didn't think that anybody would fill our interim provost, Judy Kirkpatrick's shoes, but I think you have already amply filled them, and in the few short weeks you've been here. So I hope you'll enjoy working with Betty for many years to come. So welcome, Betty, and welcome to your first council meeting. So,
I usually dress better.
yeah,
I like it, I like it.
yeah, we
And as good, yeah.
flipped a coin. Do I wear the sweatshirt or the V-neck? As you just heard, I was just back from Washington DC, got back in the middle of the night. We were the only city campus that was invited to a conference on Pell completion by Undersecretary Ted Mitchell, with the Secretary of Education King addressing us. And I was puzzled when I first received this invitation. It seemed, you know, this odd invitation to this day-long conference on successful completion for Pell-eligible students. Pell-eligible students, as you know, are the most economically vulnerable. And essentially what the Department of Education did was run a bunch of numbers on campuses all across the country, and they picked out campuses that were doing incredibly well with the completion, that is the successful completion of students who are eligible for Pell. And there was something about our numbers, something about the rapid transition of our student population and our continued success with that student population that spoke to them. And so we were the only SUNY campus invited to this conference. We were one of 75 campuses from across the country. And it was really a day, as they put it, to celebrate those campuses that are doing good work and to bring us together to talk about the successful strategies that we're using. So I came back with a couple of new tricks that Rick and Betty will be hearing a little bit about later. But I think the campus should be extraordinarily proud that we were invited. And I will say, we were not the oldest campus in the room. Washington and Lee was there, and I think they may be the oldest campus in the country. But it was certainly a day that we can be proud of, and certainly worth getting back in the wee hours of the morning in order to be a part of. I also, on my way to DC, spent some time in Albany we came down with 4, and then we met a 5th student who's interning in Albany. Sean was present, as well as Michael Ogilola, who is our Chancellor's Award winner this year, and who was the ACT awardee probably a month or 2 ago. We brought with us a graduate student who's an intern in communications, who is just doing extraordinary work. She's a graduate student in music education and an amazing student. And let's see, Sean, and then Kareem, who is a geology major and who will be heading off to grad school at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette next year. We did a lot of visits to advocate for the budget. Where, I think this is the time when we hold our fingers, cross our fingers and just hope that we'll get a good budget. But I think the students did an extraordinary job presenting our campus, representing us well. I think we had good visits with our delegation. And probably the most exciting thing was the citation for our bicentennial in the Assembly and in the Senate. Those were just really moving moments where, again, the spotlight was on our campus and the extraordinary education that we have provided for 200 years. So obviously, as soon as we know anything about the budget, we will let you know. The main point that I want to make is that we do an extraordinary job with the state's resources, and really the full maintenance of effort is really critical for us, because if we receive no additional funding, that's in essence a cut, because it doesn't cover our collective bargaining costs. Every year that we do not receive collective bargaining takes about $750,000 right off the top of our budget. And so I wanted every one of our delegation to know that number, that the impact of not funding us fully has. So we'll see what that brings. I don't know whether I'm cautiously optimistic or cautiously pessimistic. I think there seemed to be a more than usual degree of disarray about the budget this year. Obviously, it's our birthday. I'm looking forward to cake, and I hope you'll all be joining me. I think in terms of other reports, we're in the final stages of negotiation with the Chief Diversity Officer candidate. I hope that I'll be able to reveal a name for you today, but I'm hoping that later today I'll have a final agreement. I'll have a final agreement on that. I think with that, we're in the thick of strategic planning, and with that, I'll close my president's report. Unless you're kicking me under the table saying I've forgotten something.
No?
Okay. No.
Any questions? Okay. Moving right along. Yes. I think I was the one that got in the wee hours of the morning. We're going to move right along to our normal reports. First, I would like to let you know that Gerhard Vogel, while he was here earlier, has been called away by a significant family emergency. So we're all keeping fingers crossed. And Vicki Templeton Cornell will not be here this morning. The development people are all over preparing for the festivities. So we will have a shortened variety of the usual reports this morning, beginning with Lisa Wilson for the Faculty Senate.
Just come up here instead of lurking in the corner.
Okay.
I don't have a great deal to report in the way of newly passed policies. I'm going to give you an update on what's in progress. But I also wanted to mention that, talking of places we were invited to, I was invited to go present at the SUNY Voices Conference, which is shared governance, university faculty senate, SUNY-wide student government. And beginning of March, I went in with a student intern that presented on a panel on student protest, First Amendment rights, academic freedom. So that was cool. Got to talk to a lot of people, and those are always great for getting ideas about how to do things differently and better. And so, you know, it was nice to be asked to that. Since the last time, we passed a small revision to the probation, as policy, students placed on academic probation, partly to be sure that just to be sure that the rules applying to winter and summer were sort of the same as for the regular semesters, and that we not unduly penalize students who didn't do well, who were on the track to succeeding. But so that was a small change. Just a couple of highlights. I mentioned last time we have in progress new majors, geographical information systems and arts management, and then a revision to arts education. We're working on a clear process for grade appeals. Hopefully that'll help everybody. You know, students, faculty, deans, chairs, all the way up the chain of that. And in grad affairs, we're working on a policy to do with double counting credit hours between programs if students are taking two grad programs here. So, if you are ever curious or wondering what happened to any of these things that I said were in progress, all of the policies, once they get passed and signed off on by President Esterberg, are listed on the Faculty Senate part of the website. Our meeting minutes and things are all there. Another thing we're working on is being sure that we have transparency and good historical archiving of all of those actions that we've taken. It's just sort of a long-term what to do with the data for the future thing we're working on. Questions? Nothing new, really? Thanks.
Now it's Sean's turn to give the SGA report.
Well, there's not a whole lot going on in the SGA world. Being that it's now the spring semester, we are heavily focused on our budgetary process. This weekend we are holding our second round of budget hearings for our organizations, and hopefully everything goes smoothly there. We just concluded our nomination and petition period for the next e-board candidates. So this is my last official meeting for College Council holding the title. However, on the next meeting on May 6th, I will be showcasing them and showing them what to do. So I'm very excited for the next person to come in. It's going to be good. So other than that, the student body is pretty happy with the current state of campus. No one has particularly raised any issues to me, and so I would take that as a win. And a lot of students are excited to celebrate our bicentennial I know I saw a lot of our club's displays downstairs inside the Union lobby, so please, as you make your way into the celebration, take a look around and see what our organizations are doing, and read up on some of their history on their display boards. So.
Well, thank you, Sean, and on behalf of the council, we'd like to thank you for an excellent year, and we'll miss you.
I will miss this.
And we look forward to meeting the next generation.
And for the minutes, if I might just state how wonderful it's been to work with Sean. He's been an extraordinary SGA president, and I think we've worked very collaboratively on a number of things that are of importance to students this year. So Sean, I know, is going to go on to do incredible things, and I'm grateful for your leadership.
Thank you so much.
Where do you go from here, Sean?
I'm currently waiting to hear back from SUNY Potsdam for the graduate program. So hopefully that I should be hearing back soon, and possibly applying for a couple of GA positions here as well to receive some aid and help and really give back to the campus again. I don't know what I would do if I wasn't giving back to the campus, so.
We're lucky to have you. Okay, moving along to academic affairs, and I apologize for not saying earlier, a welcome
Thank you.
from the council to SUNY Potsdam, one of the newest members of the Potsdam family.
Thank you very much. It's exciting to be here in week 4. So it's I've found this community to be wonderful, both the campus community and the surrounding community. We just really love being part of the village, and I felt very embraced and warmly welcomed here. So thank you very much. Thanks to the deans and my associate provost for helping put together the first academic council brief. When I learned about this, I believe it was week 1. I was like, what? I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So thanks for helping me put that together. I think most of what's in here is pretty self-explanatory. Be more than happy to answer any questions, or actually pass them on to the dean that's here. There are questions about what is in here. I do want to mention that one of the things I've been focusing on in these very brief and quick 4 weeks is getting to know the academic areas, meeting with faculty constituencies and others, so I understand how academic affairs functions here. We're learning a lot about the wonderful initiatives of the faculty and the students here on campus. I've been really impressed. Had recent conversations, for example, with a group that is putting together the 2nd annual Economic Fusion, which will be in April, something I would strongly encourage folks to attend. It's a creative and entrepreneurial competition with students. It's going to be a lot of fun, so I hope that you can come to that. That whole creative spirit that's here on campus that spreads across all disciplines, certainly known here for our arts and our music, but creativity certainly extends across all of our academic programs. Also had a great conversation yesterday with a physics faculty member who is hoping to create a college-wide makerspace on this campus focused on some really interesting work that she's doing across other disciplines with 3D printing. What she's hoping is to really create a STEAM, so a STEM plus art makerspace, utilizing this 3D printing technology as kind of the basis for that. So I'll be certainly talking to the president a little bit more about the proposal that she has. She showed me some interesting pictures of students who had created working and lit ukuleles using this 3D technology, and I was just thinking what a wonderful combination and illustration of what STEAM really is all about. So,
Yeah, if I can just add something, she has engaged with several departments. One, my old department, anthropology,
yes.
because there are opportunities to scan and create 3D replicas of skeletal material artifacts and so forth, so that students can work with exact replicas rather than harming the originals. She needed some funding to establish this, and I have somehow, I'm not sure how, come up with the funding that she needs. It's about $10,000, and so we can actually get going on this, at least instructing faculty on how to use that. This was one of the things I was going to talk to you later on, but it
Right.
seemed appropriate to bring this up
Right.
now.
She has an interesting 5-year plan leading to self-sustaining within the makerspace, in that bringing in small businesses in the area and having them work through their own innovation issues and challenges using our technology. So it's a fascinating plan. Also, we are currently finding ways to expand our international presence. Right now, our Director of International Education is in China, working on a very unique, exciting partnership with the sociology department, but also meeting with other agencies to find strategies for bringing Chinese students here to the area. It's one aspect of our international agenda that we have. Also, I am very excited to be learning more about some interesting collaborations with Cuba that are forthcoming. I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
Yeah, I visited Cuba last fall rather, and with a small group of representatives from about 20, mostly big universities. There are only 2 primarily undergraduate institutions that went. These were institutions from across the country. We visited, spent some time in a conference at the University of Cienfuegos, which Cienfuegos is a smallish city, about 3.5 hours from Havana. Incredibly innovative, applied learning type university, regional university. They are eager to establish relationships with colleges in the United States. It's especially appropriate for undergraduate institutions, although it was mostly graduate institutions that attended. With the contact of someone who's become a good friend of mine who organized this conference, we now have a signed letter of intent with the University of Cienfuegos to go ahead and establish an MOU. I will be visiting there in less than a month with Marsha Baxter and Peter McCoy from the Crane Latin Ensemble, Krista Levac, and a student who manages the Latin Ensemble. And we will make arrangements at that time for the Crane Latin Ensemble to visit Cuba and perform in Havana and Cienfuegos in January or February. We may be able to tie it to a Carl McCall initiative that we learned about a week ago. And then in June, I will also be returning with faculty and President Esterberg for faculty to meet their counterparts and establish relationships with them. And hopefully, if we're ready to, with what I'm sure will be a great deal of pomp, if not circumstance, an MOU with the University of Cienfuegos. So we are light years ahead of most other colleges in the country, and certainly there's no one else in SUNY who has come this far in an initiative. This has the blessing of the U.S. Embassy there and their education officer, who was part of our initial conference. I think we'll be meeting there when we go down in June. For me, this is really a dream come true. I think there's just unlimited possibilities for us in this kind of relationship. And, you know, my visit follows our chancellor's visit to Cuba, Carlos Medina, and the governor, but I did meet President Obama by 6 months in visiting Cuba. I think it's a great opportunity.
Thank you for your leadership in this. The timing is perfect and critical in terms of what's happening nationally and extending into that area. So I think it's very exciting. Can't wait to hear more. So we'll have long chats.
It's been my pleasure.
Yes, very good. And just on a personal note, one of the things that really excited me about this area was the opportunity to participate in all of the cultural events that are here. And I will say last week, my husband and I thoroughly enjoyed the CPS performance of Quilters. It was extraordinary collaboration. A lot of Crane students were part of the production, Crane faculty, and Arts and Sciences Dance Theater faculty, part of that as well, collaborating with the community. And then last night I went to one of the most unique piano recitals I've ever been to, where students were putting to music and faculty were narrating the story of the elephant Babar. So I'll just leave it at that. It was very, I don't know if I've had such fun in an evening for a very long time. It was just really very well done. Any questions? Though I'll probably have to hand them off at this point. I'm still very much in learning phase.
It's okay, you've got 200 years to catch up on.
I do, that's a lot.
No pressure.
That's a lot.
Take your time.
Yes, right, we're all still learning as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're gonna give an abbreviated?
I can give an abbreviated
Financial report?
report for business affairs. Obviously, we're in the throes of planning next year's budget, and once we know what the allocation will be, we'll be able to move a little bit more quickly on that. In terms of this year's finances, I will say that we are really well on track. As you'll recall, when I first arrived, we developed a 5-year plan with SUNY that that called for each year incremental increase, modest increases in the number of students, and decreases in personnel. It also called for careful, very careful looking at and spending of our other than personal services. We are on track. We're now in year 2 of that. We are on track to meet all of this year's goals. Our revenue, obviously we were watching our spring enrollments very, very, very closely, and we were within, for our spring enrollments, within $140,000 of target, which in a budget our size is quite good. So we continue to chip away and continue to make really good progress in terms of the agreement that we have with SUNY for our financial health and well-being. One of the things that I had asked Gerhard and his team to do was to work on some more transparent budget processes, and he's very close to being able to announce a new system whereby individual budget managers can see in something akin to real time what their spending looks like and better track their expenses. So that is coming online, I think, quite soon. And in another part of his portfolio, clearly every campus today is looking at our emergency response procedures and making sure that we have in place good procedures for handling whatever emergencies arise. If you read the Watertown paper this morning, you saw that Canton was doing a desktop drill. And so he and Mary Dolan, our AVP for Human Resources, and Stacy Basford, who is our risk manager, are putting, are again looking at. We've got very good emergency response plans, but they are taking a very careful look at them and matching them against SUNY's requirements to make sure that we have in place all of the things that we need to. We are planning a tabletop drill because, to my mind, you cannot practice this stuff often enough. But I wanted you to know that we are taking emergency response very, very seriously, and Gerhard and his team are working on it. So I think I will do my best to answer any questions you might have about the business affairs report, but financially, we are, it is a long road. It was a 5-year plan that we submitted to SUNY, and we are meeting those targets, which is exactly what I would hope we would be doing.
Questions? Okay. Vicky's report is included in your binders. The big news is, as you know, earlier this year, we exceeded the goal, and that advancement continues to bring in large and small gifts for the 3 goals of the campaign.
Maybe I could just give a shout out to our campus communications, and since
Oh, yes.
Alex Jacobs-Wilkie is in the room, she presented to the entire SUNY presidents on crisis communications, and it was a small panel of I think 3 or 4 people, and just the really wonderful accolades I've heard. I was there. She did an extraordinary job. But I think our campus communications office has been receiving a lot of really good exposure within the SUNY system. Robert Jones of SUNY Albany was saying wonderful things about you as you left the room last week. So I think we have a whole advancement area that we can be very, very proud of. And Alex did an extraordinary job in our very stressful fall semester, and I think she's receiving good recognition from SUNY for that effort.
One thing I will say that was helpful during that crazy time was support from my colleagues at our sister campuses at SUNY Canton.
Yes.
Helped out with extra hands. It was very critical and very needed. So we are lucky in the North Country, tight-knit, people are willing to help each other. So that was really, really wonderful. So it's good to have support from SUNY.
We love it when our people get recognized by the system and the general public for the fine job that they do day in and day out. But we want to be careful. We won't let anybody try to make you want to leave us. Okay? This is a family, remember.
And is that maternal guilt?
Yes. It's whatever kind of guilt will work. Yes, that's right. And Vice President Miller, who I called once again by his dad's name this morning, even though I know this is Rick.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank Sean for his service to the SGA, to the council, and all that you do for St. Potsdam. You have in your report the enrollment numbers for this spring. I think President Escobar had provided the overview as to how that translates to budget. We did, as the report indicates, come in about 65 below where we were a year ago. It's the pattern is pretty similar to where we were in the fall. We started in the fall about 70 behind. We were 65 behind in the spring. Translated to $140,000 thereabouts. Revenue decline, which really, as the President pointed out, is pretty good given the size and scope of our institutional budget. I would like to add that there was a lot of work put together across the campus to make that happen. We had a number of students that were struggling with their finances, and that they were trying to pay their bills going into the spring, and our folks in financial aid, student accounts, and Student Success Center really rallied together to work with those students carefully to help mitigate any of the circumstances. On another positive note, there were two highlights in the spring that I thought were really good signs for us. Normally, we have a conversion rate of the entering class to spring, so it'd be, in this case, it's fall of 15 entering students, freshmen. and a year ago would have been fall of 14 to spring of 15. Usually we do about 88, 89%. This year we did 91.
You're talking retention.
Pardon me?
Retention.
Yes.
Retention, yes,
Right.
yes, thank you.
Fall to spring retention.
That's the retention, fall to spring retention, 91%. And the other, I think, really good sign was that, and this happens, if I shift gears and talk a little bit about the transfer market. Our transfer market, generally, you know, we tend to look at our fall numbers, and we've been dropping a little bit in the fall down to around the 230 range, but we oftentimes do not talk about the spring intake, mid-year intake on transfers, and this year we were able to increase that by 10. So we went up to 90, and I was very happy to see that pattern, and that would be included in our total head count, the spring head count of 3571. So very good sign there. You can see, shifting gears in the undergrad admissions report, very, very pleased that Potsdam leads the sector. That is the comprehensive sector in SUNY. In application flow, I believe I reported this in our last college council meeting. We have had this pattern going on all year. This is not something that just came up lately. We've been in the lead all year long. And what that translates to as of today is 430 more applications than what we had a year ago as of today. I think the report you have is as of March 4th. So in the lag, we're now up on the upside 430 applications. And that translates to a 9% increase. We're up 5% in acceptances, and we are up 31 deposits, which is an 18%. So we're very, very pleased with our progress there. Overall, if we net out with transfer, we're up 30 because we're down 1 deposit on transfer. Transfers usually come in a little bit later. We're running behind in transfer right now by 34 applications compared to a year ago. And I think we'll be able to catch up with that. Our selectivity standards are a little bit higher in terms of the freshman GPA, 88, high school average compared to 87. And then the transfer GPA, pretty much even at 3.2 compared to 3.2 a year ago.
Is the focus GPA as opposed to college boards now? Is that?
We have a test optional policy entering class, so
I mean nationwide, is that?
the focus is more on a holistic view of the applicant's portfolio, which would include the GPA, class rank, the courses that the student would have taken, as opposed to using a standardized test, whether it's the ACT or the SAT, as a single measure. So we tend to look at the entire portfolio, and which would include, in some cases, many cases, the standardized test as part of the review. But the students that are in the upper level can opt out of that if they waive out and meet the criteria for it.
Rick, within what we consider to be our catch basin area, what is happening to the secondary school graduate cohort? Is that static? Is it moving up, down?
We're seeing a pretty static situation here in New York, but locally we've taken a decline, down to about 28% of the undergrad population. That number about 10 years ago was about half. So what that means is in the undergrad population here, about half of the students were from St. Lawrence County or the contiguous counties. Now we're down to about 28%.
Really?
Yeah. And so what we have embarked upon is an initiative to expand our market presence into many other areas of the state. and out of state. We're recruiting now along the southeast corridor. We just sent an admissions team into North Carolina and Georgia for all the national fairs. So we do have a recruiting presence outside the state. We've had a presence in New England for several years now. And we need to, we want to be able to improve our presence on the out-of-state. We think we're going to need to do that to sustain our enrollment strategy long-term.
Speaking of which, what now is the differential between in and out of state tuition?
Well, the differential is, we're looking at an in-state student coming here with all the fees, room and board, about 22. And then they're upwards of 30 on the out-of-state when you add everything in.
Are you still going after?
With all funds included.
Yeah.
Are you still going after the Quebec, Ontario market?
I wouldn't say we pulled out of it. We do a lot of that in the grad area, and particularly for our certification programs.
But not Eugene?
It's not an area of emphasis for us simply because the access policies in Ontario have changed. We haven't really had a strong presence in Quebec, but it's been more in the Metro Ottawa area.
What do you mean the Ontario?
Well, what they do in Ontario is they have their policies for access to teacher ed programs have changed over the last 10 or 12 years.
Okay.
When we first went into this market, we were upwards of a couple hundred students, most of them at the grad level. And that was because in Ontario, they didn't have access in the Canadian universities in the Metro Ottawa area. So what happened was we went into that market space, if you will.
You filled the void.
And filled the void. And now the trend has reversed itself. And now we also have the currency valuation as being a very, very difficult barrier for those students to navigate because of the exchange rate.
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
So I understand that we're still receiving deposits for next year,
Yeah.
but do we have a estimated number of undergraduates? What we're projecting that our undergraduate population will be next year?
We do. Yeah, we do. What we have, and I didn't publish that, and I can certainly provide more detail on that, Sean. We have a 5-year plan that we have, and I update that plan with the business office continually. I can get you the total number, but I can tell you that our entering student number, our entering student goal is 840, and then the transfer number is 230. And what that represents is the budget threshold number. So we operate in ranges. So we set 900 and 300 as the upper limit. The bottom limit for budget would be the 230 and the 840, with the idea that we build the budget on the low end, and then anything in between we have as a buffer. I can get you, and I think SGA will probably want the 5-year plan, so you can see, and I'd be happy to provide that to you. I just don't have it here with me today. So, shifting gears in the student affairs area, if there are no more questions on enrollment, I'm happy to answer any questions. But on the student affairs side, we do have some information that we put out to you. I did want to mention first and foremost that the transition. I'm very lucky to be working in a transition with the directors, but more closely, I think, with Eric Boucher and Ruth Policella, as we move forward, organizing all the service delivery across these areas. You can see in the report that the areas are quite busy. And they put, there are some stats put together on the number of appointments in counseling and health. We have our first Student Affairs Awards ceremony next Friday, which I get to MC, so I'm going back to my Student Affairs roots, and I'm excited about that. They've asked me to MC it, so I'm quite honored with that. And I also wanted to point out, which this is not in the report, but we have an update on the number of security cameras on campus. Additional, we've installed 80 cameras, all networked into the UP office. These are 80 new cameras, they're all networked in. I want to thank Dan and Romine and their crew at CTS for that. It was done in a very fast, rapid pace. And correct me if I'm wrong on the number, but that's the number that Kyle gave me. And I have a listing now of where all the cameras are, and those include all the entrances. I think the latest wave was the dormitory entrances.
Yeah, we're adding more to do, it seems.
So
Yeah.
there's more. We do have more on the docket, and we are. I think we made this a priority in terms of budgeting, and we do have a policy that we put forth, a video surveillance policy, which is a standard SUNY policy item about how we govern the use of surveillance, and been vetted by the SUNY legal counsel. So we're just at the final stages of getting our approval there through Mary Dolan's office.
Has there been a statewide mandate to increase your video surveillance?
There was no statewide mandate that we were directed to do as such, but this was the call from our student body to have a better presence there. We were already working on, we already had several cameras in place,
Yeah.
but they were not networked where the folks at the UP office could see them live. They were more standalone DVR type setups.
Two things. Firstly, how much things have changed. I was here in the early 70s. If you told us then that you were going to have security cameras all over this campus, you'd have a revolt.
Big brother.
Big brother.
I keep repeating it.
Yeah.
But surely we're not monitoring all those cameras simultaneously at one time, are we?
We have 113 cameras right now being monitored that are all on, they're on screens over in UP, and then they can identify, they don't look at all 113, but these are on 30-day recordings.
But there's nobody.
They have, they do have a dispatcher there and people that can watch the cameras. I can't say that they have somebody there 24/7.
It's not a real time.
Right, but the recording, Dan and Romine, correct me if I'm wrong, I think is a 30-day capture. And then they know where, what the locations are.
So on the 31st day one comes off, is that what happens?
The 31st, yeah, then what they do is it resets itself and they start recording.
If it happens like during a break and we end up with extra storage space, it may go over the 30 days, but it'll never be under the 30 days.
Is it saved? Let's say day 32, it's off, but is it saved in the cloud or someplace?
No, after that.
It's gone?
It's gone.
So it's first in, first out?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, fair
And if there's still
enough.
space, it'll store
Yeah.
more, but
Yeah.
if not, it'll keep at least 30.
And Brian, to your point, the advantage of the new system is while we don't have somebody who's watching it live, the capability to immediately switch to any one of those cameras now exists, where previously they were going to localized DVRs and somebody would have to go to that building and pop out the tape or load up the thing. Now everything feeds back to UP, and if somebody says Bowman quick, they can hit the Bowman button. Like,
Yeah.
look at that camera right now.
It's quite an advance.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant improvement over what we've been working with, so.
And I will say we are seeking funds for SUNY to cover some of that cost. We'll see how successful we are, but we are attempting to recover some of those costs.
We're looking at about almost 160,000 in recovery from our expense base in the fall. That's pretty much all I had. I can answer any more questions. I'm happy to do that. So I want to thank everybody and happy birthday.
Yes. I would like to thank our enrollment
I feel
management
better
team.
for
We
you.
are the only comprehensive that's up, and some of the comprehensives are significantly down. So it's really a lot of shoe leather, a lot of work by the admission staff, by our alumni who've been meeting, by everybody who's really making sure that when prospective students come here, they have a good experience. So
We're going to be
I'm just
working on this
grateful.
all summer.
Yep.
I mean, it'll be a summer-long, we have to go through orientation and, you know, to make sure that we do everything we can to yield out. It's what we would call yield season. We work with the students through all the various stages of the process, right through to their showing up and then beyond in the transition programs. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Good work once again, and I think it's proof that the campus took to heart the call that enrollment is everybody's business. It doesn't just belong to rec or to admissions, or the student leaders, or the ambassadors, or the orientation leaders, or the RA. It's everybody's business. And I think that's paying off by a lot of hard work by a lot of good people. So we're happy to hear that good news as well. Does anyone have any new business that they'd like to bring up? Or is everybody anxious to go get giant birthday cake? Cake awaits, I like that. Spoken, I'll leave that there. Just for the record, our next meeting is Friday, May 6th. I'm assuming this is on the 8th floor.
The breakfast.
The 9:15 breakfast with the student leaders, which we look forward to every year. So I hope to see you all there. And in your binder today is a list of upcoming events, which we need to know whether or not you will be participating in. So if you could fill that out and leave it with Carol before you depart for the cake, in case you have a sugar crash afterwards and are unable to fill it out. If there's no other business to come before the council, is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Roger, seconded by Brian, and thirded by Sean. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I thought I was gonna die there for a minute.
We're just trying to keep you awake.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Has anybody ever opposed adjournment of a meeting?